Hey, good morning everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm just about to jump rope, but before doing so, I wanted to get on the camera and give you an update of sorts. This morning there was a knock at the door and there was a delivery. And inside the package was some gear from Crossrope, namely a jump rope mat and their new AMP handles. So I'll get to this in just a moment. If you have followed my channel for any length of time, you will know that I tend to jump rope on concrete. Other hard surfaces that I jump rope on are timber boards. So I've long jumped rope on concrete and I enjoy it. One, because it's widely available. Concrete is everywhere and all you need is a smooth bit of concrete. Any rocks on it, any stones, you can just move them out of the way if possible and begin jumping rope. So I've long jumped rope on concrete and I will continue to jump rope on concrete. A few months ago, the founder of Crossrope, Dave Hunt, he reached out to me. So I've long used PVC jump ropes for jumping rope. I'm a big proponent of PVC jump ropes. I still have several PVC jump ropes. One reason I love them is because they're very inexpensive. You can buy some good PVC jump ropes for just a few dollars. So if you're new to jumping rope, a PVC jump rope is a great way to experiment and to see if you like jumping rope. And then of course, if you enjoy it, then you could consider spending more money on more expensive jump rope products. For example, Crossropes. As I said, Dave Hunt, he reached out to me. We got to talking about a jump rope book that I had published on Amazon. And him and his team asked would I be willing to try Crossrope jump ropes. Because over the years, so many viewers of this channel had asked me for my feedback on Crossrope jump ropes, but I hadn't tried their products, their jump ropes. So his team, they sent me some Crossrope jump ropes, and for the past several months I've been using them and I absolutely love using them. They're terrific jump ropes, they're a terrific product. So if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, if you enjoy jumping rope, you really can't go wrong with Crossropes. I have their quarter pound, their half pound, the 1 pound and the 2 pound. So I will continue using them, and of course I will also use PVC jump ropes as well. So today, why did Crossrope send me a jump rope mat and their new product? The mat, well, because if you're seeing on the screen right now, my wife and I, we recently moved to a new accommodation in Ireland. We'll be living here for a little while anyhow. And as you can see on the screen, right outside the door where I plan to do a lot of jump rope, the ground is quite rough, extremely rough in fact. So when I told Dave Hunt, when we got to talking a little while ago, that I would be moving to a new location and that I believed that the concrete was extremely rough, him and his team were more than willing to send me a jump rope mat to try out. So I'm going to be trying this out today for the first time. So as you can see there, it's still got the tape on it. Let me see if I can just rip it off here without having to get scissors. Okay, there we go. So I have tended in the past not to jump rope on mats. I have experimented with mats, say in boxing clubs, for example, but when I jump rope, I love to make use of space. I love to jump rope and move around at the same time. So that won't change. If I'm jumping rope here at our accommodation, I will probably use the mat to protect the ropes. The ground, as you can see, is extremely rough and that could easily damage ropes. So let's open this up for a second. So this is the first time I've seen this mat myself. Okay, so one thing I like about it so far is simply the size. The mat is, I don't know if you can tell there, it's quite long and it's quite wide. One kind of gripe that I have with some jump rope mats is that they can be quite small, and that can be a problem because the rope can actually make contact with the jump rope mat and it can kind of mess up the rotation of the rope. Also, a small mat is likely to kind of move around under your feet, so that can be another problem. And because it's a small mat, you might even find yourself jumping or moving off the mat as you jump rope. So this mat, nice to see that it's quite long, it's quite wide, so I'm looking forward to trying this one out today. And I can see there, it's got the do the thing jump rope motto, jump rope dudes motto on it. Okay, so I'm looking forward to bringing this outside and giving it a try. Okay, so next, these AMP Crossrope handles. So I'm not very familiar with these handles, so I'll have to read about them online, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with them. So you got the handles there, and I guess this is a charger, so there's probably a battery inside there. Push that little button there. Okay, so that's turning on, so I guess you can use this to charge up the battery, and from my understanding, you connect your iPhone to the Crossrope app, and you can use these handles to count your jump rope hops. So usually when I jump rope, I tend not to keep track of hops. I just jump rope for a certain duration. For example, if I'm limited on time, I have 20 minutes, I'll just jump rope for the entire 20 minutes. Of course, I might make mistakes or I might take some breaks. If I'm not limited on time and I'm in the zone or I'm in the flow state, I'm having a lot of fun, I might jump rope for an hour or two. Of course, taking breaks here and there. If I'm learning a particular jump rope trick, I'll keep devoting enough time and practice to learning that move over a few days or even a few weeks. So I haven't really been someone who counts their hops, but I know some people, when they jump rope, that's what they enjoy doing. I have friends, for example, they count their hops. So a product like this could be extremely helpful. So I'm looking forward just to experimenting with these handles, reading about them online, and finding out more about them and how you can set the handles to maybe take into consideration different jump rope moves. For example, a regular 2-foot hop versus a double under. The intensity between those is different. Do they count as one hop? Do they count as how many hops? I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out, and I'll certainly experiment with these and give you my my feedback. So yeah, there's deliveries for today. Now I'm going to head outside and jump rope, and I'll use the mat for the very first time.
Hey everyone, so I'm just unfolding the jump rope mat, the Crossrope Jump Rope Dudes Do the Thing jump rope mat. And during this video, I'll share my thoughts on the jump rope mat, and I'll just talk about what I'm doing in this particular workout. First things first, I'm just tapping the toes and the balls of my feet against the ground to loosen up my feet, prepare my feet and the muscles of my lower legs for jumping rope. The mat, it's extremely handy to fold out and close. Here again, I'm tapping my feet against the ground. This is a fantastic movement to warm up the muscles of the lower legs, to warm up the tibialis anterior. Great for helping to avoid shin splints. And I'm just rocking back onto my heels before going into a calf raise. So just a nice little movement here to warm up the feet and the muscles of the lower legs. So as I was saying, the mat, it's very easy to fold out, to put on the ground, and it's also easy to roll up, and it comes with a nice strap to wrap around the mat to keep it tidy and easy to put away. Here I'm just doing a few little squat jumps to again warm up the legs as well as the thighs, the quads, and now I'm doing a few butt kicks to warm up again the legs, but also just focusing there more so on the hamstrings. Jump Rope Johnny, that's the cover of my jump rope inspirational uplifting book, and there's the cover of my plantar fasciitis solution, both available on Amazon, links down below in the description. So this is the first time using this Crossrope jump rope mat, so I'm experimenting with my body positioning on the mat, where I can jump and where I can't jump. Can't jump in the sense that if you go too far forward on the mat, the rope can hit the mat, as you will see at one point during the video. But the mat is quite long and is quite wide, so there's ample room to actually move around a little bit while jumping rope easily without the rope getting caught on the mat. Here I'm just doing the basic 2-foot hop. So here, the rope hit the front of the mat because I was just testing how far I could move forward on the mat to see at what point the rope would make contact with the mat and then kind of mess up the rotation of the rope. So the halfway point of the rope, the halfway point of the mat is perfect for jumping rope on, and even 6 to 8 inches in front of the halfway point. I also noticed during this experiment that you could jump at the back of the mat with no issues whatsoever. And I also jumped at the side of the mat, no issues whatsoever. And you will even see later on in this video, I actually jump rope a little bit off the mat before going back on the mat, and I experienced no issues whatsoever with that. So the one thing I would advise after this first session is, if you are jumping, jump towards, either stay in this around the center of the mat or even back 6 inches, a foot, or towards the back of the mat. Or you could also jump the center of the mat, but to the side. And as I said, later on you will see I actually start jumping rope moving backwards, going onto the concrete before going back onto the mat with no issues whatsoever. And one thing I really liked about this mat, and I've used it several times since this video was recorded, is that it doesn't move or slide on the ground. I know the Crossrope team, they put a lot of research and development into this particular jump rope mat. And so that is a nice point. It doesn't slide or move around the ground, which is fantastic. And the jump rope, when it makes contact with this mat, it does sound quite nice. And the ground that I'm jumping rope on here, the concrete outside the residence where we're currently staying, is extremely rough. So you can see me here at the moment. I'll get back to what I was just saying there a minute ago. I'm actually jumping off the mat now. And then I return to the mat with no issues whatsoever. The rotation of the rope doesn't get caught in the mat, so perfect. You can jump towards the back of the mat. You can even stay off the mat as I am doing now. So I'm jumping rope on concrete, but the rope is actually hitting the mat. So you're getting the benefit there of the rope being protected from the concrete while also keeping the feet on the concrete. So that is something you can play around with. You can actually jump rope off the mat as I'm doing now again. I'm jumping on concrete, but the rope itself is hitting either the concrete if I choose to do that, or if I stand close enough to the mat, I can still jump rope on the concrete with the rope making contact with the mat, which protects the rope. And so as I was saying, I was talking with Crossrope, the founder, Dave Hunt, and I said that for the next while anyways, we would be staying at a residence with some quite abrasive concrete outside. And he and his team were extremely generous and offered to send a jump rope mat for me to try out. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And I've been using the mat for a couple weeks now, and I'm very satisfied with it. It's easy to fold away. It doesn't slide on the ground, and it's quite large. And as I said, the rope, when it does make contact with the mat, it does sound nice. So it's handy in that you could carry it around because it does have a strap. You could easily put it into a car if that's what you choose to do. And as I said, you can also move off the mat and then go back onto the mat. So if you wanted to move off the mat and jump rope, say on concrete or timber, you have the choice of staying on the concrete or timber, or you could just stay at a certain distance in proximity to the mat where the rope is still making contact with the mat. So that's a good point about the mat. And if you couldn't afford a mat, you could try carpet. As I've said in previous videos, like if you want to try to protect your rope, carpet can be a good alternative. But this mat, it's certainly good. It's big. It's the space is ample enough for a jumping rope on. It doesn't slide around, and it seems to offer good protection of the rope, and the rope does sound quite good when it hits the mat. So getting back just to what I'm doing here at the moment, I'm doing the jog step, the run in place. And for the past couple weeks, this has been one of my go-to moves, because in August I have a triathlon, which has a running section, of course. And then at the end of August, I'm doing a half marathon. And I'm using the jump rope as my conditioning tool. I've been using a lot of the heavier Crossrope jump ropes, the 1/2 pound, the 1 pound, and the 2 pound rope in preparation for the swimming section of the triathlon. The heavier ropes can really help to engage the shoulders. So I think that's good conditioning for my shoulders for the swimming section of the triathlon. Here, I was doing the basic boxer skip, shifting my body weight from one foot to the other. And you might be curious about the shoes I'm actually wearing. They are a brand new version of barefoot minimalist shoes called Paluva. This model is called the Paluva Strands, and they're fantastic for jumping rope, and the sole is extremely flexible. And if you're interested in trying out Crossrope jump ropes or their gear or Paluva shoes, I've provided discount codes down below in the description. So keeping the intensity relatively low here. I just threw in a couple double unders, but mostly in this video, plenty of boxer skips and the jump rope run in place and some single hops on each leg. The cross rope that I'm using in this video is the 1/4 pound cross rope. But since recording this video, I've been using mostly the heavier ropes, the 1/2 pound, the 1 pound, and the 2 pound rope. And you guys, my apologies that my face or head is going out of the frame here from time to time. We've just recently moved to this residence, and I'm just getting used to the area outside. So we'll have better angles in future videos. So when I'm jumping rope here, because I'm keeping the intensity low, although you can't see my nose, I am trying to do essentially strictly nasal breathing. Breathing in with my nose and breathing out with my nose, and trying to do so gently and quietly. So you can see here in this video, I'm moving around as I'm jumping. So here I'm at the side of the mat, and yet the rope is still making contact with the mat. So the mat, it's quite large. So it's quite suitable for a jumping rope, even while being able to move around. And as I said, you can move off the mat, jump rope on a different surface, but yet still have the rope make contact with the mat, because the mat is quite wide and it's quite long. Here I'm doing some butt kicks. Nice move for working the back of the thighs, the hamstrings. So I'm really looking forward to this triathlon. Actually, this day next week, or this day next weekend, I should say. Really looking forward to that. I'm not putting any pressure on myself with regards to times or anything like that. I just want to complete the event, enjoy the event, maybe mingle with some people during the event, and support one another. Just looking forward to getting out there and taking part. And same with the half marathon at the end of August. Several years ago, I used to run quite a bit, and I had my sights set on completing the events in certain times. But these days, I don't really put too much pressure on myself with regards to times. Tomorrow, there is so I'll get back to, so you see me there, I just did the boxer side shuffle. I went off the mat before coming right back on the mat. So that's something nice you can do. You can just go off the mat briefly before coming back on the mat. And as I said, you can actually jump with your feet off the mat, but you can continue to have the rope making contact with the mat. So that's quite nice. It's nice being able to do that. And if you follow this channel for any length of time, you will know that I tend to jump rope on concrete. And if I'm jumping rope maybe at a different location and I can't bring the mat, I would still jump rope on concrete. But as I said in previous videos where I talked about mats, if you are using more expensive jump ropes, investing in a mat or some protective material like carpet, it is quite wise to help protect your jump ropes. For many, many years, I used just basic PVC jump ropes, very cheap jump ropes. So jumping rope on concrete, I never minded if the ropes got damaged or if they broke. They were so cheap I could easily just replace them. But if you start, using more expensive products, you probably want to try to preserve the shelf life of the products, the jump ropes, as long as possible. So that's where something like a mat or a carpet or interlocking rubber mats can come in extremely handy. If you were, say, for example, living in the same location for a long period of time, you could have several interlocking rubber mats or a large section of carpet or a mat just like this. So as I said, a great feature of this mat is not only the sound the rope makes when it hits the mat, but just the fact that the mat doesn't slide around when jumping on it. So I've used this mat for several sessions since the one we're currently watching, and it never moved around at all. And I've had some friends and family members also jump rope on this mat, and they also relayed positive experiences. So that's always good to know. Doing the boxer skip, and you can see there, just kind of staying light on the toes and balls of my feet. The heels of my feet are not making contact with the ground. Sometimes people will ask, is it okay if your heels make contact with the ground? Yeah, depending on the particular jump rope moves that you do, from time to time your heels might gently tap the ground. That's fine. But for the most part, with a lot of jump rope moves, you will use mostly the forefront of your feet, the toes and the balls of your feet, and trying to land on the ground gently without too much impact, without too much force. You don't want to smack the toes or balls of your feet into the ground. You want to try to land gently. Here, doing the run in place. There were a few sessions since this one where I did simply the jog step run in place for 30 minutes straight using the 1 pound Crossrope. And jumping rope for that duration of time, even if the intensity was low, using a heavy rope like that, you can definitely feel it not only in your shoulders, but also in terms of your cardiovascular system. So you can see here, I'm moving around quite a lot here on this mat, using some different footwork techniques. The only thing you have to be careful, as I said at the outset of this audio, was when you move, or when you move to the front of the mat. If you move too close to the front of the mat, the rope can hit the concrete before hitting the mat, and that can mess up the rotation. But if you skip at the back of the mat and even going off the mat, there's really no issues. And that's because the mat is quite wide, quite long. So you see here during this jump rope session, making a few mistakes. It's all good. Just dust off, begin again. doing a few crisscrosses, just keeping the intensity relatively light, relatively low. Some alternate arm crisscrosses, all the while doing the boxer skip. So the jump rope is an extremely humbling tool. In any given session, you might do several hundred jumps, several thousand jumps. And it's very easy to make a mistake. Even when you think you may have mastered a move. It doesn't take much to make a mistake. Or if you're trying to do a very intense or advanced jump rope move, you're probably familiar with this. The rope can give you a bit of a smack on your body, maybe your back or your legs. So it's a nice reminder to always keep that beginner's mindset. There's always room for growth, always room for improvement. So as I said, I got a half marathon coming up at the end of August. The last half marathon I did was on St. Patrick's Day. And that was a special event for me because for many, many months before that, I was suffering with severe foot and heel pain known as plantar fasciitis. And I tried so many treatment protocols, so many approaches to eliminating my plantar fasciitis, but I wasn't getting any results. And then one day, serendipitously, I made a connection between a feat that I had previously learned, the middle splits, and I applied a similar technique to treating my plantar fasciitis with some unique stretching methods. And in just 14 days, I completely eliminated my plantar fasciitis. Just a few days into the treatment, my new treatment protocol, I felt I was already experiencing relief. And that's when I decided, okay, I think I'll be ready in the next 2 weeks to take part in a half marathon. So I signed up for it, and I was delighted to be able to complete the half marathon completely pain-free, which is quite remarkable. I suffered from foot and heel pain for 8 months. And then once I figured out how to treat my plantar fasciitis, it only took 14 days to make a complete recovery. And without running in over a year, I took part in a half marathon, completed it. Sure, I was tired, but crossing the finish line with no pain whatsoever was fantastic. So we're approaching the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. So just a couple of things to point out again. Jumping rope on the mat. The center of the mat is perfect. Going towards the side of the mat, no issues whatsoever. Going at the back of the mat, even going off the mat, still having the rope make contact with the mat while jumping rope just on the concrete, no problems whatsoever. You just have to be careful if you jump towards the front of the mat. You don't want to go too far forward. If you go too far forward, you might notice that the rope will hit the concrete, hit the mat, and mess up the rotation. But the mat is wide, it's long, and it doesn't slide. Hope you've enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.